All right, well, here we go. I'm supposed to be telling you what a great start we are having to our new year here, but so far it just seems like the chaos and whatnot is still going on. But we're not going to bury ourselves in that crap. We're going to talk about boat stuff. So I was pretty well missing through December up here from the boat, but I'm back now. And a couple things to go through. I talked about our camera on the back. This is it, the one that was on the stern that we messed up, the little connector. I've ordered a new camera, but I'm going to explain what I'm doing because I'm taking a little different tack here. So I'll explain that. I do need to talk about this. Holy cow! This is the wood piece that I built to temporarily kind of hold that thing up there. And I am going to explain to you the significance of this little doodad and what it means to life on the boat. So let's jump right in and do all that stuff, shall we? I'm on Whidbey Island today, so I've boated past Whidbey Island quite a few times and always really liked it up here. If we go further up the road, we'll wind up going over Deception Pass, which we might do today. It stopped raining for the first time in several days, and it's Sunday, so I can't really get much done today in terms of having the boat hauled out or anything like that. So I thought I'd just come up here and have a bit of a stroll, bring you with me, show you a bit of the Pacific Northwest if you're not from here. I know some of you folks watching are from Australia, which is cool, but here's where I'm at right now. Let's just show you some of the countryside. Cameras. Here's the deal. These Iris Innovation cameras, if you watched my video where I did the whole takedown of this system, you know I'm not the biggest fan of these guys. Their stuff works, but has its issues, and I've not been totally enamored with it. Plus, it's reasonably expensive. You know, this is a $450 camera, basically, for a little IP camera with a weatherproof connector on it. I know that because I just went to their website to see what it would cost to buy a replacement. So what I've decided is I have some other cameras on the boat that are Lorex cameras. Maybe you can see one right over my shoulder right there. Right? That's an internal pan tilt zoom camera that I have that it's hooked to the internet, so I can jump on that thing at any point in time when I'm out of this state here, and I can see the inside of the boat and make sure smoke's not coming out of anything. I don't know what I'd do if it was, but anyway, I've had really good luck with those Lorex cameras. I have one here inside the cabin, and I have one on the other side of the wall outside facing the aft deck, so I can see should someone walk onto the boat, or I can kind of look out and see what the weather's doing out in the back and all, again, over the internet while I'm gone. So when I went to Lorex's website and I looked at their cameras, they have a little IP bullet camera like this, or round camera, whatever they call it. I think they call these bullet cameras. Anyway, they have one for like 99 bucks. So I'm not going to buy an iris replacement for this. I'm going to take one of the ones that's down in the engine room and put it back up on the stern. So it's the outside one with the waterproof connector, because I'm not 100% sure the Lorex one has a waterproof connector. It's not here yet. But I'm going to just move one from the engine room back up there, and then I'm going to put the Lorex one down in the engine room. So I will do that as soon as that gets here, and it's in transit, and I expect it in the next day or two. So hopefully we'll get that in this video, and I'll show you what we did. I'm also going to figure out what to do about this wood. Now, this is just a piece of poplar or cedar or something like that I picked up at Lowe's or Home Depot or whatever. And you see it had to drill a hole in it, and I kind of rounded the top off, and I have my holes for my clamps where it clamps to the rail. It works just fine, but it's ugly. So I'm probably going to figure out something else to do about that. At bare minimum, I will sand this down to good wood to get rid of all the gray stuff, and I'll put a coat of epoxy over it to seal it up so it will stay better. And I may still use it because it worked just fine, but it's just ugly. And obviously the wood's going to weather and deteriorate worse than it already has. So I might just, protect the wood and keep it up there. We'll see. We'll come back to that. So I promised I was going to talk about one other little widget on the boat, and that's this guy. So let's talk about this little guy. Okay, you know by now that I have a diesel hydronic, I think it's called hydronic, heating system on the boat for the winter time. So there's a Webasto diesel heater down in the engine compartment that ignites a little flame of diesel and heats into a heat chamber. And around the perimeter of that heat chamber is a water jacket that has antifreeze circulating through it. Gets that water hot. There's a pump there that then pumps that hot water all through the boat, through radiators in the boat, and some which are just passive radiators and some that have a little fan behind them. And that's how we heat the boat. And you know that I've worked on that thing a little bit at one point. Some of the valves were set wrong and it wasn't really heating, and I insulated the piping around the boat and all that stuff. But this season, when I fired it up, the exhaust port is just through the side of the boat, on the port side of the boat, right here, kind of straight across from where I'm standing. And when I fired it up this season, I got a lot of kind of whitish gray smoke out of the thing for a long time as it was starting up. It took a long time to kind of heat up to the point where it would stop smoking. So I dutifully went to trawler forums and all that kind of stuff and did, looked at other people talking about their boats smoking, their heater smoking. And the first thing that everybody says that you do when your heater's smoking is you replace the nozzle. And apparently you're supposed to replace this nozzle on a yearly basis, really, it sounds like. So this is kind of a consumable item for that system. And it's got a tiny little hole in it here. I mean, older eyes, I can see there's a spot where the hole is. I can't tell you how big it is. It's tiny. And it's got kind of a little ceramic filter on the back side of it here. So I looked online to where I would find a replacement nozzle for this, and as it turns out, there's a place called Sure Marine here in town that's like 5 minutes away. It's closer than West Marine to me here, and they have these in stock. So I ran over and picked one up. It was, I want to say, $27 for this little guy. So I bought two of them. So I have they come in a little container. You probably can't see that, but they come in this little container so they can print on the top how much fuel they use. This uses 0.35 gallons per hour, I think, so a third of a gallon an hour, and it says it's 60 degrees SFD. So there you go. I don't know what the hell that means, but that's what it says on. Anyway, I'm getting all sidetracked here. They had them, and when I went in there to pick them up, the guy said, do you need anything else? And I said, no, I think this is it. I said, it's just smoking a bit when it starts up. And he said, yeah, that's the first thing to do is replace the nozzle. It fixed it 95%. Okay, it's still smoking a little when it first starts up for like maybe a minute, and I don't think it's ever done that before. So they also said there, they work on them. He said you can take the whole head unit off, take it into them, and they can kind of check it all out and make sure everything's tolerance, and then you bring it back on and bolt it on. There's actually only like 2 bolts that hook it to the combustion chamber, and there's a big cotter pin that is kind of a hinge for the thing. So you have to undo the wiring, obviously, and you have to undo the fuel lines from it, but it would be pretty easy to take that head unit in. So if I make it through this winter, at the end of the winter, I will take it in there. If it continues to give me more problems, I'll take it in during the winter, and just, maybe as I'm heading back to Salt Lake, I'll drop it off and say, okay, give it a full overhaul, and I'll pick it up when I come back. Sounds to me like those things will run forever, because at one point I was talking to the guys at S3 Maritime, I think, about mine, and I was talking about the serial number, the date of manufacturer they found on it, and I was like, this thing's over 20 years old. And he said, oh yeah, that's no big deal. They run forever. So, they put these diesel heaters in semis and trucks and tractors and all that kind of stuff. So they're very common, and it's a pretty simple system. Basically, it just squirts a little fine mist of diesel, and there's a couple of electrodes that spark to light it, and off you go. So I have done that, and I'm continuing to monitor it. Now, I'll just tell you, it's kind of a funny story. There's a boat next to me that just showed up here that replaced the boat that used to be there, and it's a Riviera, 40-footer, 42-footer, same size as mine, basically. And that person is not a live aboard, so I've seen the guy just show up a few times and, kind of working on his boat, but he doesn't live aboard his when he's here, like I do. And so last night, I was sitting here and I saw that he, turned his lights on and whatever. I had the blinds closed, but I was sitting there and I heard my furnace kick on, and no big deal. I'm going about my business. All of a sudden, I saw some motion out of the front window, and a very big cloud of smoke was going past the front of the boat. So I thought, oh, holy crap, my heater's smoking again. So I jumped up and opened the blinds and looked out there, and sure enough, between our boats was just full of smoke. And so I shut my heater off. It takes it a minute to shut down because it's got to kill the flame, and then it's got to kind of run the fan for a minute to cool everything off in there. And then I stepped out on the back of the boat, and the neighbor had his window open. He's out there with a flashlight looking around. I was like, hey, I think my diesel heater might be smoking a bit there. And I started explaining it, and he's like, no, it's mine. So he's got the same problem. His exhaust port on his is on his starboard side of his boat, literally almost straight across from mine. And his was smoking really bad. And he was saying, no, it's smoking up inside of the boat and everything. So he shut his off and left it. I was like, oh, that's funny, because I was just working on mine. And I told him I put a new nozzle in. It sounded like he said he had his whole thing in there at Sure Marine and had it worked on. But yeah, it was just funny because there was a ton of smoke, and I was like, why did that change? Why am I suddenly getting all this smoke? And I mean, when I looked out there, it looked just like it was coming from mine because it was between the boats, but sure enough, it was not. It was his. So I at least feel like I'm not alone in this challenge of getting our diesel heaters to work just fine. And I think the moral of this story is, go south, young man. Just go south where it's warm and you don't have to run a heater. Where your biggest problem is, do I have some air conditioning on the boat? So there you go. There's the little story, short little story, of course, of the nozzle here.
All right. Well, I did wind up having to come back to Utah again. I've been helping my daughter out with her business, so we got some stuff going on where I'm kind of coming back to help out and whatnot. And anyway, as I was leaving, the diesel heater issue, I just decided, you know what, I'm just going to take the thing in, drop it off. I'd talked to Sure Marine, and they said it could take 2 to 3 weeks to get the thing run through the shop there. So I pulled it off, and took it in and dropped it off with them, and then headed back to Salt Lake, where I can just turn on a normal house furnace still at this point and not deal with this silly thing. But I do think that going forward in the future, I'll do this each summer. The previous owner had mentioned that, and I knew in the back of my mind that he said he took it in, kind of had him work it over every year. And when I took this into the shop, the previous owner had left a sticker on it with his name on it, and the guy that was checking me in, writing up the paperwork, was like, "Oh, I remember that guy. I remember that boat. He was out on the end of A dock." And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's it." And so he said, well, that's good. We'll have all the service records and all that. And so I did take this thing off and take it in. It was a little difficult getting the fuel lines off, and some of the wiring is in kind of a difficult place. But other than that, it's really pretty simple to get it off here. So that's what we have done. The thing is in the shop, getting overhauled. And as you're watching this, I am back in Salt Lake. But through the magic of time distortion or time dilation or whatever, we're going to go back to the boat for a minute.
Okay, I have to take just a little bit of a tangent here. 2 tangents, in fact. So if you haven't got your coffee, pause this, go get it. This might take a minute. First tangent we're going off of is the boat market. I was just reading an article the other day saying that the used boat market is flooded with boats, and it's a buyer's market, and it's horrible, and no one's buying boats right now. And a lot of people are saying, apparently what the industry saw happen was during the COVID pandemic, people bought boats to have a way to get away, and I think a lot of people bought RVs and stuff as well. And now that that's all kind of in the rearview mirror for the most part, people who maybe really weren't all that into boating have now kind of soured on the idea, have gotten tired of the upkeep and all that, and are now bailing out and selling their stuff. However, I have told you before that I'm in a spot right here where I see all the boats come around. They go right outside that window and around the other way over there to get hauled out. And it's pretty easy to tell when there's one coming through that is a boat for sale. A couple things obviously tip me off to it's a for sale boat. Generally they have a big sign on them that says for sale by Seattle Yachts or Worth Avenue Yachts or whatever. Okay, so they got a sign on them, so that makes it easy. But also they've got a bunch of people on there, and there's always at least one with a big silly grin on his face who's the potential buyer, who's all excited about getting his dream. So I know I was there, and I'm sure I had that silly goofy look on my face. But I have seen in the last several days, almost every day, a 60 to 70 foot boat going by, 50 to 60 to 70 foot boat in that range, big boats with the signs on them and the silly looking potential buyer on them going over to get hauled out for a survey. And they only haul out a lot of times they'll just haul them out and kind of hang them in the sling there while the guy goes around, taps on the bottom and does this bottom test, and then they'll dunk them right back in the water and take off again. So it's pretty easy to tell which one is being hauled out for a survey. So from my data that I've collected here, looking over my shoulder, it seems to me like boats are still being bought and sold. So there's that. Okay, tangent number 2. I was watching a video the other day, and it was a famous personality, a news person, and I've seen this a couple of times now, and I'm watching along, and I'm starting to get this weird, like something is not right with what I'm watching here kind of feeling. And I've learned the wording for this from my kids. This is what's called the uncanny valley. So look it up if you don't know what that means. I didn't until one of my youngest kid was like, "Oh, that's the uncanny valley thing. Like, you should know that, Dad." But anyway, I started getting this sense that something was weird. And so I've started kind of watching for it, and I'm finding it's happening more and more. You'll be watching a person who's talking on the screen, and you start to realize that while they look like the person, they sound like the person, there's something off about them. And what I've found, I got to set my coffee down so I can explain it the most, is if you were to put a dot on your screen and you watch that face that's talking to you, it's starting every movement and coming back from every movement to that exact same spot. So it will do some human characteristics. It will look to the side, or it will blink, or it'll be nodding its head. But every time it finishes, it comes back to precisely the same spot. That's the easiest way that I've been able to kind of point out these things. And I understand what's going on now. You can take these AI engines now and put yourself, kind of feed a bunch of your videos into the system. So you set up your account and you go, okay, go watch all my videos of me talking and process my voice down and the way I do my inflections and so forth. And then create a fake version of me. And I think what happens is, I think you could probably get one of these, I'm going to call it an avatar for lack of a better word, but I think you could get this thing completely built where it looks like you, it sounds like you, and then you just plug a bunch of text in and it reads the text off and is you for the internet. And you can now, you could probably use AI to generate the text on some topic and say, go write me a 1,000 word essay on the state of ICE enforcements in Minneapolis. And the thing would generate that, and you feed it into your machine, your algorithm, or your AI generated avatar thing, and it would start being you and saying what you want to say. All I'm saying is it's fake. It's all AI generated, and we've all seen the fake AI videos, of the Chihuahua saving the baby from the bear that came up on the porch, or just this weird stuff that's showing up out there, and then all of a sudden there's 10 variations of it. Oh, it wasn't a Chihuahua, it was a poodle. Oh, it wasn't the baby that got saved from the bear, it was the grandma or whatever. It's all garbage. It's all fake. It's these people out there who are generating this crap and throwing it into YouTube and Instagram and all these social media places to just simply generate revenue from people watching and sharing this crap. And as a person who's trying to, scrape some little meager income out of doing this myself, it's pretty frustrating, because I'm just a guy. I'm real, and I have no intention of doing anything to sell myself out to try to make some money off YouTube or whatever. But there are people that are doing it, and they're filling the space up, So it's a little frustrating, and it's also frustrating to watch that shit and go, hold on a second, I just got hoodwinked into watching some computer-generated person read me a script that was probably computer generated, and none of it has any real basis in reality whatsoever. And I feel taken advantage of a little bit, and like someone's trying to pull the wool over my eyes. So in this age, is all I'm going to say is, in this age of so much stuff being shoved into our eyeballs and our brains that is fake, it becomes really important for us to try to figure out what's genuine and real about everything. The news, the things you're watching, the things you're consuming, the things you're thinking about. You need to start thinking about the motivation of the person presenting this stuff. What story are they trying to sell you? Because I'm telling you, I feel like we're in big trouble here. I just feel like we're in big trouble. This is the stupidification of the world's populations, and the people who own this technology don't have good motives, I don't think. I mean, I've started to go get on a soapbox, and I'm sorry, that's not what this channel's about. I'm going to jump off the soapbox. So if you've seen one of these, you know what I'm talking about, or if you've been watching one of these videos and you just start to get that little sense of, something's not right here, just know that it probably isn't. And if you take a close look, you can start to see the indicators to prove to you that it's fake, and that better equips you to understand what's real and what's fake. So enough of that. Let's talk boat stuff.
All right, I think I said, well, we'll finish this off with some boat talk, but right now there's not really much boat talk to be talked about, and I've already talked way too long on this video. But it's an inversion up in the valley, up in Salt Lake, and what that is just the valley has the Wasatch Mountains on the one side, on the east side, and the Oquirrh Mountains on the west side, and it kind of creates this natural bowl in the valley. And in the wintertime, around this time, when the cold air settles down in there, it just lays in the valley and it can't get out. So there's the point of the mountain at the bottom end of the valley, and there's a little hill at the top end, and basically the air has no way to get out until a storm rolls through. So it gets really, really bad. You don't want to breathe it, and your eyes kind of burning all the time. So I just had to get out of there today, which is one of the great things about not having any responsibilities, is I could take off. Now, where I'm at today is another little gem of a portion of Utah that's called the Burr Trail, B-U-R-R. It's kind of skirts the south end of Capitol Reef. So it's the same kind of country. You can see behind me the sandstone mountains. And thankfully down here, it's clear air and all nice. So I came down to goof around down here a little bit, and it's getting towards the end of the day, so I will probably head myself back up to Salt Lake. But we'll wrap this up. The next time we talk, it's probably going to be 2 or 3 weeks from now, because nothing's going on. I'm down here in Utah, and so I'm not working on the boat. So rather than just bore you with me talking for an hour and a half straight, I might not do that. I might just wait and let you catch up with me when I get back up there. In about 2 weeks' time, the Seattle Boat Show is happening. So I definitely want to be up there and go to the boat show and look at a few things. And so, yeah, that's kind of the schedule, is I'll be up there around boat show time, and then probably staying there till the end of February when I have to come back here again. So you didn't need to know any of that, sorry, but thanks for watching. And if you hanged into this video all this way along, drop me a comment and just say, man, I stuck it out. Because I know this has been a long SOB with just me talking mostly. So I did that video at the end of the year where I didn't talk at all, and most of the people that watched that clicked off in less than a minute. So maybe we'll see how many make it to the end of this one. If you did, good job, man. You got some staying power. Thanks for watching. I'll catch up with you next time.